I'm Jamie Wojciechowski, and today we are discussing the Dakota Access Pipeline, important issues affecting Native American communities. I'm here with Matt Remle. Would you just like to introduce yourself really quick?
Taki chante wa stia nape chuse pelo wakia wana tan ya woslaha mata ha yellow Charles Remle ate wa Donna Harrison ina wa wana Sierra all hello with good feelings in my heart. I extend a hand to you and to all of your viewers. My English name is Matt Remle and my Lakota name is Wakia Wanatan. I'm a Hunkpapa Lakota and my parents are Charles Remle and Donna Harrison, and currently living out in Seattle. So thank you for having me.
You're welcome. So I think most of our viewers have seen, since it's been all over national news, about the Dakota Access Pipeline and the protests that are happening. Would you be able to just explain quickly what's going on, why people are protesting, and what the effect has been?
So the Dakota Access Pipeline, a little bit of background, is a pipeline that would extend from the Bakken oil fields in northwestern North Dakota, running across North Dakota, South Dakota, Iowa, and into Illinois, where it would connect to a kind of a distribution hub, and then down onto the Gulf Coast region for refinement and export. It's about 1,000-mile long terminal that be bringing roughly 500,000 barrels of crude per day. And our tribe, Standing Rock Sioux tribe, has actually been fighting the proposed Dakota Access Pipeline, the Bakken pipeline, since 2014, and first learning of the proposal. In the permitting process is kind of in a couple different stages. One, you had to have states approve permits, and you saw the 4 states that I mentioned approve the permits, and then the Army Corps of Engineers also had to weigh in and approve a permit because the pipeline would cross multiple bodies of water, including the Missouri River and across federal lands. And when Iowa's permit, a camp was established on April 1st. Called the Camp of Sacred Stones, which is in the direct path that the pipeline would cross in the Cannonball, North Dakota area. And July, and this is probably what most people are familiar with, is when the Army Corps of Engineers gave its approval for the pipeline in the Missouri River, and that's where we saw the escalation and protest demonstrations and multiple arrests that have been taking place at the Camp of Sacred Stones. And yeah, where we're sitting at right now is shortly after the tribe, Standing Rock, that is, filed a lawsuit against the Army Corps. And that actually tomorrow is the hearing in Washington, D.C. To see if the judge will approve it or not. Hopefully it will go our way and the pipeline will stop. Otherwise, if the judge gives green light, construction could resume on that portion of the pipeline on Friday.
And is there any discussion or plans for what the movement will do if the lawsuit is thrown out?
So there's been a call out on multiple fronts, and one thing I should point out is the opposition to the pipeline is being fought on multiple fronts, from the tribal council to the grassroots folks with the Camp of Sacred Stones, as well as some individuals who've come up from all over the country, really, and as well as lawsuits from farmers and landowners in Iowa. So we're certainly not the only ones fighting the pipeline, but our general position has been to issue a call to have folks, if they can and are able, to come out to North Dakota to prepare for the worst, I guess. But in the meantime, to be vigilant and passing tribal resolutions, getting city councils pass resolutions in support of the Standing Rock Sioux tribe, in support of showing opposition to the pipeline, and connecting with media outlets, contacting elected officials, and getting the word out about this pipeline. So our position is basically we're going to continue on fighting as if it's going to be approved, and keep our fingers crossed.
Awesome. Yeah, and then tomorrow, there's already thousands of people who have already shown up to protest in Washington, D.C. They're holding a rally outside the Army Corp. Yeah, so I asked my Twitter followers what questions they had, and overwhelmingly, the biggest question was, what could people do who aren't able to actually show up to the protest do to help the cause?
Yeah, right on. So a little bit about my background. I'm an editor and a writer with the news site Last Real Indians, and our second site, LRI Inspire. And actually, I wrote an article about that a few days ago. Just overwhelming amount of people who reached out to me, reached out to others, saying, "Hey, what can I do? I can't make it out to North Dakota, but I absolutely support the efforts of what you guys are doing out there." And so I wrote an article that detailed that, and one of them was going back to the resolutions I was talking about. The Standing Rock Sioux Tribe issued a call about 6-7 days ago for tribal councils to pass resolutions in support of the efforts to stop the pipeline. And to date, we've as of this morning, we put out on Last Real Indians, we had 87 tribes across the country who have passed resolutions or sent letters of support. So there's one thing you can do for the tribal citizens out there, is to check out that list, see if your tribal government has passed a resolution or sent a letter of support, and if they haven't, pressure them to do so. But also for non-tribal citizens, go to your city council or to your local government, and you can pressure them to also pass resolutions. It's my understanding that the city of Minneapolis on Friday was looking at passing a resolution, and I did pass a resolution. So that's just that's one thing in itself. Financial support is a big one. The Camp of Sacred Stones has in need of support, both financially in terms of all those folks that you saw getting arrested in terms of legal support. And so there's a link up on their page, and in the article I was talking about for folks pitching $5, $10, $15, whatever you got, to help towards legal fees, as well as there's a link to support just the camp in general. Like I mentioned, the camp was actually established back on April 1st, and so there's a need in terms of funding for food and those sort of things. So that's another thing. You know, people just want to pitch in $5, $10, then that's amazing. Another thing, we've asked folks to look at the banks, the financial institutions that are affiliated with Energy Transfer, as well as Enbridge, who are the two companies behind this pipeline. And don't let your money build this pipeline. I mean, there's a lot of reasons you should take your money out of the Wells Fargos and the Bank of Americas anyways, but this just gives you another option, or another reason to, I should say, that take your money out, close your account, and tell them why you're closing your account. You can also, a big one is support Native media. Mainstream media has essentially kind of not really covered this topic at all. In some ways that's bad, but the flip side is that Native media, you know, for example, like Last Real Indians, we've been covering this issue. I've been writing on it since January. So support Native media sources. You know, we're the front lines folks. We're telling our own stories. So yeah, it's good to put some pressure on the mainstream media, but go and support the Native media sites that are already out there, and share their stories, send their links along to other folks. And the other thing I say in the article is that you know, this is one pipeline of many pipelines and many methods that whether it's the tar sands or the Bakken oil fields is trying to ship their product, right? So I live out here in Seattle, and we have massive amounts of Bakken and tar sands trains coming through our, just down the hill from me daily. There's several proposals to set up terminals to export. So support efforts to stop these projects in your own communities, because the front lines really are everywhere. So those are just some of the many ways that people can support the efforts.
Yeah, what are some, because it's interesting you talk about the mainstream media, and it's interesting because even though there's kind of been a blackout on this issue in the mainstream media, the online media has really been promoting it quite heavily. Have you seen that influencing what is happening in the movement?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's been I mean, that's one of the beauties of social media, and having the access to cell phones and stuff like that, and alternative media sources such as yourself, is that we don't have to call in the CNNs and the MSNBCs to please cover our protest and demonstrations and show our side of the story. We can do it ourselves. Anybody with a cell phone can pop it out, hop on Facebook Live, and just start recording, and the images kind of speak for themselves. And I think especially when the arrests started happening, and those images were going out, to the world, whether it was on Facebook or Twitter, that yeah, it definitely reverberated. I was told that for the first few days there, that our hashtag no DAPL was one of the #1 trending hashtags globally. A story that's resonated with folks and individuals, and in some ways I love that, because we're telling our stories. It's not like people have to jump to those mainstream sources to get that information, because honestly, they're just gonna, who knows if they're gonna get the story right anyways, or they're gonna slant it. And I'll give you an example of a local news source up in North Dakota. Had talking about folks having pipe bombs and all the popping off shots and stuff like that, which everybody knows is I'm laughing because we know it's a joke, and just a scare tactic to rally opposition to what we're doing. But that's what I mean. So that's what you get when you bring in these sources who aren't connected to or affiliated with the grassroots folks or what's going on in the ground.
Yeah, and that's been from the people I've talked to the biggest, I guess, frustration over it, because I think it's either MSNBC or CNN, where they kept showing the police force talking about the bombs, and they would have someone for 30 seconds talk about how, well, I'm on the ground and that's not happening, and they go back to and end it with what the police force said, which kind of negated everything that the person who's actually there experiencing it had experienced.
Absolutely. There was another one that went out this morning from another North Dakota news site that talked about laser FBI going to investigate laser pointers going, shining at lights going over the area. And then a couple hours later, there's a second article going up from the same news site that the laser pointers were coming from the pilots at the camp. So, nobody in the camp was pointing little laser pens at the airplane. So, we are, I mean, it's an old game from the demo.
Yeah. Awesome. Do you just want to kind of repeat the last topic you were talking about? Your video was just going in and out, and so was the audio.
Okay, sorry about that. Yeah, what I was talking about, like I mentioned earlier, that I'm a writer and edit with the news site Last Real Indians, and Chase Iron Eyes, who's actually run for Congress right now in North Dakota, and a number of others who started that site. You know, one of the ideas was behind starting was simply we have our own agency and ability to tell our own stories, and we don't need to kind of keep banging on the doors of whether it's mainstream media or these other institutions to tell these stories, because we can do it ourselves.
Yeah. What do you find the real solution is to this? I'm going to call it an epidemic, because what we don't want is you to have success with this pipeline, and then in 2 years there'll be a new pipeline, and then have to fight that one, and then another new pipeline, which is kind of what we're seeing. Is we saw with the Keystone pipeline, and they kind of lose, and then they find a new trail to go down and fight that. What do you find the actual solution is to stop this kind of energy use and fossil fuel transportation?
Sure. So I'll kind of echo with Dallas Goldtooth, who's the organizer with Indigenous Environmental Network, and one of the folks actually on the ground back in the camp. You know, he makes it all very clear that it's not simply about stopping this one pipeline, and it's not one of those not my backyard type things that we don't want to hear, we don't want it anywhere. And in fact, and we need to get away and move away from the use of fossil fuels, period, and move towards renewable energies. What that looks like, can vary from community to community, but keep it to the ground. We got to get away from this, because you're right. One thing we saw after fight is that tar sands crude still came across, but instead of pipeline, it was coming across in trains. And we out here in Washington, we have tar sands train crew, with tar sands crude trains coming through our communities up to refineries north and south of Seattle. So these energy companies, they're doing simply because we stop one pipeline or stop a train route, right? They're going to keep trying to bring their product to market. So we need to both be defensive and offensive, I guess, at the same time. In terms of defensive, in terms of stopping these proposals, but offensive in the sense of pushing, whether it's our tribes or local governments, ourselves, whatever we can do to really push an alternative energy solution.
Will be good.
Okay.
Yeah. My other question is,
Here,
and this is Bernie, just on Bernie Sanders real quick, and
sure.
I think it was Jane Sanders who was actually going around to Native American communities and talking about what issues were affecting them, and it kind of brought, at least to social media and social news networks, it wasn't covered as much by the mainstream media, the issues that you were talking about. Have you felt like that campaign and it actually involving Native American voices has helped bring issues to the public? Or
Yeah,
that something you didn't
really and his team did a phenomenal out to tribes in the Native community and bringing our issues to his campaign events and rallies. It actually started with our Apache relatives who have been fighting an effort by a number of years ago. The federal government, in its one of its budgets it passed, literally signed away rights of their to the rights of one of their sacred sites to a foreign mining company to mine for copper. And so the Apaches' job in bringing that issue to the forefront, they actually went to DC and met with Senator Sanders there and got his support. That brought his wife out to the Apache. She came out to Oak Flat, and she got to kind of experience those issues firsthand. And I know that that had a huge impact on her, you know, opening her eye to issues impacting Native communities. But you saw the Sanders campaign do something really phenomenal, where it not only issued statements, you know, that kind of generic, we support Native Americans and tribal sovereignty, but actually brought Native people a part of his campaign. And it shown during the Democratic platform, and Deborah Parker, who's a Toledo tribal member, was brought onto his team to sit and help write the Democratic platform pre-convention. So yeah, I think if nothing else, that sort of broad awareness. I mean, presidential elections are followed quite a bit, and you know, at his stops, him getting up there and first thing he's saying is I'm giving records of this area and this. I was told that he, in the course of his campaign, he met with, you know, close to 100 different tribes. I mean, that's unprecedented. You know, a presidential candidate would do that. So, yeah, I think it's had a huge impact of keeping our issues, or at least bringing our issues to a non-Native audience.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. I'm actually going to include your article and the article you talked about with the things people can do to help in the replay. So that'll be underneath in the description for anyone who's watching the replay. Thank you so much. I'm glad we got to talk. Okay,
Thank you. Thank you for having me. Thank you for
You're welcome.
putting these issues out there.
Good. Thank you.